So we're going to carry on with, again, a remote connection with Eva Kaili, Vice President of the European Parliament. I hope that Eva Kaili is able to hear us. There you are. We see you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you very well.
How wonderful.
And,
welcome. Welcome. And I don't know whether you've been able to listen to our conversation so far, but we've had a fascinating series of perspectives on the current European situation and, of course, the many challenges that it faces. So please share with us your perspective on this sitting in the European Parliament. How does it look to you, and what can and should Europe be doing at this stage?
First, let me say I'm connected from Strasbourg. We have our plenary session this week. That's why I couldn't be with you. And Daniel Franklin, it's an honor to discuss with you. It was a very interesting debate indeed. I will start by underlining what it was said, that we need to define our European strategy and not to follow a US strategy. We need to be prepared to have a social and economical and a military European Union. We face an unexpected crisis. I'm talking to several conferences, and I feel that everybody sees a perfect storm ahead of us, if not being in the center of it. It's inflation, it's a decline of our consumers' purchasing power, it's the energy and food poverty ahead, or like the need to have secure supply chains. And this week in the plenary, we are discussing about the possibility of gas storage, common purchases, joint procurements, basically, and financing themes, and also the taxonomy, if it should or not include gas as a transitional form of energy. So I think that what we are realizing at this point is that the 24th of February was the fourth big call to European Union after the economic crisis, Brexit, the pandemic, and now the Russian war and its consequences. So Jean Monnet always said, and everybody repeats, that Europe is built through crisis. Hopefully this is a final crisis, that it helps us to rethink our strategy and building finally also a defense union. We have ahead of us security threats, technological threats, and the need for the natural disaster threats, so a green policy. And this is our responsibility to find solutions in difficult times and to guarantee that our citizens are safe and they remain secure in order to strengthen Europe. And we cannot outsource these solutions to the member states. National entities cannot face such challenges. I suggest also to read there is an excellent study about the cost of non-EU in the pandemic, during the pandemic, and also before. It's really eye-opening. So now, since we face the consequences, even if there is no proximity to our borders of a war that can affect even Africa, and even Turkey is taking advantage of that to escalate tensions or to even weaponize migration. I think what we see is the lack of vision that we had, short-sighted policies. You had excellent leaders discussing with you, and I think everybody agrees that we need to build our common foresight, our common responses and preparedness. We cannot have a dependence of 50% of Germany to Russia. This is something that we should have never reached. Even Italy increased recently its dependence to Russia, so we need to reverse that. And I think that if we add all the member state power that we have, we are a big market superpower, but not only. I believe we can actually move mountains, but coming here to represent the European Parliament, I have to say that we are now building our European defense and resilience, and we are redesigning our new security architecture. So trying to respond to this chain of challenges in changing and transforming worlds, we definitely try to stand up to the expectations of our citizens.
So what you describe, of course, is an enormous challenge of leadership, and that is always been a bit of a question for Europe, is where to look for leadership. We've just seen a French election, on the one hand, President Macron re-elected, but also slightly having his hands tied behind his back now at home. We have a relatively new German chancellor who's made some dramatic changes, but is also fairly quiet on the international scene. So I suppose two questions for you. One is on the leadership question, where should we look to for European leadership? And the second question, since at the heart of what you mentioned it yourself, this energy dependency on Russia, one area where the European Union could make a real difference is by a very rapid energy transformation of supplies. And is this a role that you see for Europe over the coming, particularly an urgent matter over the coming 2-3 years?
So, well, if I could respond to that, I would say leadership you can even find at the European Parliament. We responded so fast, we managed to get together and we called for a European response. We did that in the pandemic. We managed to stay open and decide. I would say that this was a big call for the Commission and the Council to react to what the citizens basically wanted. And I feel that, as you mentioned, Germany, France, Italy, no matter what are the challenges at home, they have strong leadership. And Spain, I believe that this is not just lack of leadership, this is the lack of foresight and being ready to respond to such challenges because we were not expecting it. Let's say that we didn't expect to have a war at our borders. We didn't expect to have to face a pandemic. We did have the tools to respond and we managed to get together the recovery facility. We managed to talk about resilience. I would say it's maybe not the end of globalization, so we cannot reach autonomy, but we can have strategic autonomy. This means we can become very strong in the supply chains, a very strong link in order to be able to leverage such power, the European power, to make sure that our citizens remain in this quality of life and they feel safe. As for the green transition, so I think it's a great opportunity for Europe to be even more ambitious. We do have a plan ahead, Fit for 55, so we need to reach our climate neutrality objectives. There is no energy security if there is no sustainability in the long term, and it was said that these prices, if they lead to energy poverty, then you don't know how citizens and how democracy will be affected in the European Union. So when I talk about security architecture, I include the energy security, and I believe we have to secure sustainable energy independence. We are working on several different aspects, so in efficiency, in the taxonomy, in the way the file just arrived on gas storage, how we can safeguard that the winter for Europe and Europeans will be safe, because we realize that with such a changing world, we have to find our new allies. We have to ensure that we have access to energy for citizens during the winter. And we are building stronger ties with the Middle East. We are discussing with the US, and we are doing this in a common manner. And I think this is something to be to give us more hope, I would say, in what lays ahead as a future after we overcome also this challenge.
So I think in the interest of time, this must be my last question, but I wanted to ask you about this question of unity, which has cropped up so often this morning. Maybe you've been listening to the conversation we've been having, the importance of unity. And in the European Parliament, where members represent people from around the European Union, what is your sense of how possible it's going to be to maintain, I suppose, the remarkable degree of unity that we have seen in the early days of the war in Ukraine? Is this something that can be sustained from a democratic point of view, even in Europe?
Well, it has not been easy. We need to overcome also the problems we face with the pandemic in order to keep the quality of democracy we had in-house. But I definitely think and believe that Europe has finally gotten a mandate to become stronger. We cannot again outsource anything to the member states. We saw with the pandemic that we managed to be resilient, and we managed to ensure that we have access to all the ingredients of the vaccines. We managed to have the production capacity to ensure that all citizens will have access and for free. So I think that these are just examples to show that we have this unity when it's needed, and we really, I believe, shocked Russia because we responded so fast together also in this war. I would say it was remarkable for Europe to respond in such a manner. And being at the plenary, I also think that now things that we could have long debates for, now they are shorter. Now we know that we need to move ahead together. And we have a new bureau. We have the younger generation actually being more active and wanting to face this crisis together to have a Europe of peace. I would say basically these wake-up calls that I mentioned, the fourth, has been hopefully the final one in order to conclude our European Union. I'm quite optimistic, and you are in Greece. I'm very honored to discuss with the Economist. Europe had come a long way to achieve what it has. And one thing that I take away from that was that the Greeks were stronger for the European Union identity than before the crisis. And this, I think, says it all.
Thank you. Well, on that note of optimism, I thank you very much. I hope that next year maybe you'll be able to be in Athens with us here. But it's been wonderful to be able to connect with you by the miracle of technology. Thank you very much, Eva Kaili.
Exactly. Thank you, Daniel Franklin.
Thank you.
Thank you.